Welcome back to Nevada Realtors Today, your place for timely updates on the news and trends that matter to realtors in the Silver State. If you want to know exactly what changes are coming and how to prepare, so you can deliver amazing service to clients and navigate your real estate career with ease, this podcast is for you.
This is a career-making, business-making time for our industry. Because what happens in times like this, where we have a unprecedented settlement that changes our industry practices, historically low transaction unit count compared to, going all the way back to the 80s. And what happens right now is you can make moves right now that you cannot when the market is just really busy, right? And I've been personally writing about it. I wrote about it last year. I call now is a buy low market for everything. If you're a broker and you want to do acquisitions, it's a great time to do acquisitions. If you're licensing technology, it's a great time to do technology purchasing because the vendors are really hungry to sell you something at a great deal. If you're an agent and you build your base of clients now, as the market recovers and you're the maybe the last realtor that they know still standing, like your market share just explodes. And we saw this during the great financial crisis. And I think we're at that time again. Coupled with Tiffany, the artificial intelligence revolution, which is impacting broadly all industries and will impact real estate. And that's another one where, that was one of the trends. It's one of the opportunities in the report we talk about is that things that used to be really expensive and hard, or you had to hire staff, or you had to do all this kind of stuff, you now have AI tools. If you want to write blog posts, but you're not a writer, great. You can get AI to write it and edit it. If you want to do video and you're not great at video, you can get AI to do video. If you want to do better photography, you could take, mediocre photography, or your neighborhoods listings, whatever, and AI can make it look great. So there's a lot. It's almost like things that you used to have a team, maybe 4 or 5 people to get you to do. You can now do with your computer. Amazing. Amazing. For sure. One of the comments that somebody made, and I think this is very true, is AI will not replace the realtor. By the way, I don't believe the AI will replace the realtor. We've been saying the realtor is going to be replaced by everything for forever. I mean, this industry is scared of its own shadow. We think, the banks are going to replace the realtor. Zillow's going to replace the realtor. All these other things are going to replace the realtor. Well, it's total nonsense. The relationship that a realtor has with their client is very special. And it's something that people want to work with people. As a matter of fact, you look at the statistics our organization studies that says, since the 70s, we put all this information online. We got IDX, we got beautiful websites, we got all this kind of stuff. What has happened with actual realtor utilization by the consumer public? It's gone up. It's gone up, right? So I'm not personally, and for your listeners, I'm not worried for anybody in this industry. But the thing that somebody said as one of our interviews is that agents won't be replaced by artificial intelligence, but agents might be replaced by other agents that use AI, right? So it's more of a this is something that you need to embrace and adopt. Whereas I think today, if we thought about, could you do real estate without digital signatures in the modern era now? No, everybody uses digital signatures. I think it's going to be the same with AI. And you don't have to be some kind of genius to figure it out. Let the tech people figure that out. And they're just going to start building it. It's going to be in every tool you use. And you're just going to notice one day, like, wow, my tools are really smart at helping me do stuff. Or I'm getting transformational capabilities. I couldn't do that before, but now I can go to you can right now go to artificial intelligence and say, tell me the top questions that people have about these neighborhoods or about these areas. Okay, great. Those are the questions. Now write a little blog post or a video snippet for me to record with an answer for that, some answers, and it'll do that. And I've done this myself personally. I live in a neighborhood. I went and said, what are the top questions? And then I was like, wow, these are really great questions. And all right, what are some of the answers to these questions? And they would create it for me, and then I'd edit it, and I had this incredible marketing material. I can put on my blog, put it on my website. I can make a video podcast with it. I can do all kinds of stuff with it. So it's just this is stuff that's at our fingertips, and it's only going to get better. So I think that the thing that I came away from in both reading the report and working with Stefan on it was the broker leaders are, and the teams, agents that we talk to are very optimistic about what a time like now means for growing their business and building for the future. It's kind of unprecedented. And I've been telling people, we've been coaching our brokers and the teams that we work with, like, don't waste this moment. Like, this is a special moment where if you invest and your competitors don't, if you market and your competitors don't, if you're the person that people begin to think of because you're staying active and you're out there, then all of that's going to accrue to you when as the market comes back and begins to recover. Because fundamentally, people want to buy real estate. That's not changed. We know there's pent up demand right now. It's just a time of uncertainty, and those that act during a time of uncertainty, they gain the benefits. So that was on the broker. That was brokers, agents, teams. Some of the coaches we interviewed, some of the people that talked to a lot of agents. On the organized real estate, the consensus there is that we have some structural work to do, and all this is in the opportunity report. We got 9 different things that from all these leaders. Keep in mind, this isn't T360's opinion. It's not my personal opinion. This is the opinion of 50 really smart people that have been paying attention to this industry for their entire careers. And we distilled this down into the things that need to happen. Some of these things are not, if you're paying attention into the MLS and the association space, are not remarkable, but it is to say very validating to say, like, hey, we have way too many MLSs that don't provide enough value. And we have too many associations. We have a lot of overlap in associations where it's not really necessary. We have, in some places, you guys do a great job. I know there's a number of states that do a great job, but there's some places where it's like, hey, I'm not sure my local association doesn't do anything for me, or my state association doesn't do anything for me. And people are unclear about the value proposition. So that's in there, that a lot of what needs to happen in the association space is being really clear about value proposition and about also letting the MLSs really grow into the data companies they need in order to be competitive. And one question I have been asked a lot is like, well, now that compensation has gone for the MLS, shouldn't they go away? They're useless. Without compensation, the MLS, they're useless. Why do we even have them? And my answer to that is, what are you, crazy? You are crazy if you think the MLS is useless. The MLS is the lowest cost marketing tool that an agent has at their disposal, because it is a subscription service that everybody pays for. It's like the postal service. If you don't have an MLS, in order to think about what you'd have to do to reach all the other realtors in your market without an MLS, or to reach the broadest possible set of buyers that are actively working with an agent. Think about what you'd have to do. Well, you'd have to go buy ads on Google. That's a bid market. So you're bidding against each other for attention. You'd have to go do stuff on Facebook. That's a bid market. You have to build a big email database and email all the realtors in your area and say, hey, I've got a new listing coming on. It's crazy what you'd have to do without the MLS. And that's just the marketing. Like, the fact that I can, as a realtor, I can go log into the MLS, I can put a listing in there, and I can notify every active buyer in my market that is looking for something in that price range. That's incredible. And I'm paying, $50 a month, $100 a month, whatever my subscription fees are, right? Whatever that is. That's incredible. So I tell people, why would we get rid of that? It's an incredible marketing tool for our sellers. We would do what? We would go give it to the portals. We'd go try to generate that traffic ourselves. We'd go maintain a big mailing list of agents to email our listings to. That's crazy. So, and that's not even talking about the value of the MLS from historical sales transaction records, comps, studying the market, understanding what's actually happening. Like, there's so much value there. So I think it's an incredible professional tool. It would be a terrible thing to not have it. And in the opportunity report, we talk about, well, we need to unlock the MLS from association over meddling. Associations meddle too much with the MLS. They use it as a political tool. They use it to carve out territories and try to keep other people from doing stuff. No, stop that. Let the MLSs run. Let them grow into the data companies they need to be. Let them merge where you've got a big, strong one that provides a lot of value to their members. Like, that member value, by the way, we've done a study every 2 years on the cost of MLS service and the services provided. And I will tell you, the larger MLSs, they have bulk buying power. They can purchase more services. They have ancillary products they usually include for free. They're a better value. And it doesn't say everybody needs to run a big MLS, but the big MLSs have a lot of value. The ones that struggle, the little MLSs really struggle to provide value, and they charge the most. So again, in the opportunity report, say, hey, we got too many of these, too many of them are too small. We need to unlock them. We need to let them run and provide a lot of value to members. And there's a lot of that we talk about in the association context as well, that there's a lot of small associations that really should just not lose their local identity, but buddy up with a big association so they can provide some real services and value and training and the advocacy and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot in that space. The other one we get is, well, shouldn't just NAR go away? You know, like everybody's like loves to beat up on NAR right now. And by the way, we've been very critical of NAR in our editorial in our own trends report. We wrote a big piece on, like we thought NAR needs to fundamentally. The title of the chapter was NAR needs to fundamentally change or it will fail. Right. So it was very pointed, and we said these are the things that need to change. And all leaders we talked to believe that NAR does need to change, but none of them said it needs to go away and just poof, nothing, right? They said national housing advocacy, super important. There's great work that NAR has done in the past, everything from all of the financial programs and lending programs to like all the attention to the what's happening with first time home buyers and advocacy for low cost and more affordable housing. Like we have big work to do in the advocacy space, and all the leaders were aligned around NAR needs to focus on advocacy and helping the homeowner and helping keep that ladder of our wealth building, which is real estate. I mean, real estate is the fundamental tool in the United States for families and individuals to build wealth and to have a sustainable financial future. And we believe all the leaders we talked to are like, NAR has an important mission there. There's some other missions maybe it should drop. There's some other things maybe it doesn't need to do, right? But that one, everyone was aligned on. So that second section, which is all about organized real estate, probably more interesting to those that are listening to this that have been involved in their association or in MLS, or have served on committees. And I'd say, by the way, if you haven't done that, get active with your association. It does bring you into a bigger world. It's also, I'd say, it's great for your career. A lot of people I know that have been very successful as brokers or as team leaders. That little bit of activity gives you a higher status. More people talk to you. You get referrals. Like it's great to be involved at the state and the local level.
When you think about working with both the institutional level and directly with agents, when you look at a real estate agent right now, what do you think professionals most misunderstand about where the industry is actually headed?
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of interesting information out there at the moment.
Mhm.
And I think that we're really quick to react to market conditions
Mhm.
and shifting economies, of course, right? As well as shifting political landscape. But what I will say is it has been a tough few years for agents in comparison to the previous years, which
Mhm.
was just a flood of low interest rates due to COVID, right? And everybody buying houses and everybody coming to this stark realization that I had to spend a year at home in this house. This is not where I want to be, right? Or
Mhm.
I want a bigger house, or I want a better finished basement, or whatever it may have been. So it's just been really unique, and I think our market has really truly evolved away from what it ever has been in the past. So I think it's hard to say the true trajectory of our market, but what I will say is I think our market right now is headed in the right direction, with or without lower interest rates.
Mhm.
Yeah, I definitely think that people are, um, if you got to buy or sell, right? I mean, people are always on the move and people always need housing. They always need a roof over their head. So, in any market, if you got to do it, it's like just jump off the fence and get in the game, right?
You can refinance later,
Yeah.
especially if you find your dream home now.
Exactly. And I love all the stats that people put out showing what interest rates have been over the
Mhm.
past 3 or 4 decades,
Right.
outside of COVID, which is an anomaly
Mhm.
overall, right? We're sitting at
Totally.
one of the lowest interest rates we've had in, 3 or 4 decades. Like our parents never
Mhm.
had the opportunity to see this, and everybody still bought, right?
Mhm.
Now, granted, price points were a little bit different back then, and
Mhm.
salaries were a little bit different back then, and
Mm.
everything was a little bit different from a cost perspective. Of course, inflation was different as well. But with that being said, like you guys said, some people don't have a choice. They have to buy, they have to sell, and life goes on. And I think it's going to be the agents who are actively invested in real estate as a full time role who are always going to do the best.
I think we hear about that all the time, right? The part-time agent versus the full-time agent. And some agents feel like I have to have another job so that I can survive in real estate. Where then you hear the opposite from what you're saying. If you just focus on this full time, like what you will be like.
Yeah, absolutely. Real
I
estate is
know.
also very relational based, in my opinion. And
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
so what I see is a really incredible, I guess you could say, like real estate trap that early agents sort of get sucked into, which is like this chasing after leads and lead generation, and instead of focusing on all the relationships that they
Mm,
have in their current sphere and all the relationships that they could build utilizing their current sphere. And I really feel like the relational agent is way more high performing than the agent who is solely focused on any type of lead generation they could find.
mm,
Agreed. I remember actually, so I've been in the industry for 21 years, and I remember when I first got in, because it was I got in like '05, '04, '05, and then licensed in '06. And so I remember, getting in there and thinking, oh well, what can I do? I guess maybe if I just work at Starbucks from like 5 o'clock in the morning till 9, and then I can go in and do real estate all, and throw myself into real estate all day and the rest of the day, then maybe I could do that. But really, I ended up I never did a second job. I threw myself into real estate full time, and then actually I got in and I had like one good year, and then the market crashed. We went into short sales and foreclosures, and that's the market I grew up in. And now, and I really worked hard on my sphere and building those relationships and not being transactional. So,
mm,
to build those relationships and be able to, and here I am, 21 years later, and I still have those relationships, and I have done many transactions with, multiple transactions with those people over the years. And when you're thinking anything real estate, you're thinking me, and I will help you. And if I don't have the answer right away, that I'll find you the answer. I'll get you what you need. And
mm-hmm.
so my goal was to be your real estate consultant for life. I want to build that relationship with you, and help you in whichever way you need along the way.
I think yeah, and you're still a baby. 21 years. I can't believe you've been doing it that long. A word we hear often is scaling. Like you think about how do I scale a team? How do I scale myself? And Trey, before anyone even thinks about that, what systems or disciplines have to be in place?
Yeah, I think your back end has to be on point. Like
Mm,
you have to know that your business could run itself if you weren't there
mm-hmm,
tomorrow. And I
mm-hmm,
think that's what a lot of agents who are thinking about scale possibly lack, right? And,
mm,
and it's why a lot of agents actually go to really great outfits like Side or Place that they
mm-hmm,
pretty much build out the back end for you so that you don't have to manage it, you don't have to think about it, and it gives you the ability to scale a little bit better. So those are some great avenues for somebody who maybe doesn't have their back end,
mm-hmm,
completely in place. They're willing to give up a little bit of their commissions in order to just have somebody who runs that for them. But yeah, there has to be a critical amount of systems you already have set in place that's going to help provide resources for your agents as you scale. Because the more
mm-hmm,
agents you get, the more needs they're going to have, and the more wants and asks that they're going to have of you. So I think knowing, okay, what does scale look like for me? How
mm-hmm,
do I currently do my job, right? Could
mm-hmm,
I manage to do this many more transactions this year? Could I help another agent to complete this many more transactions this year? What's that going to take off of my plate, right? In order to give
mm,
them the time that they're going to need.
right.
So yeah, systems is probably the biggest thing that I
Hmm.
would think of as you're looking to scale.
And so when you talk about those different platforms, how do you get familiar? Like if you're an agent that's like, I don't know where to start, like if my broker doesn't mentor me in that way? Like, what do you recommend as far as like just getting your hands in figuring out what works best for you?
Yeah, I recommend this to everybody, but get a coach. And it doesn't
Mm,
have to be like this huge, like I got to pay $1,000 a
yeah.
month to have a coach, but like it could really just start with being like a true mentor.
Mhm.
But you really want to lean on somebody who you have seen is successful, right?
Mm,
And somebody who also is willing and has the time to commit to having coffee, every
mhm.
other week with you, and really just being able to bounce ideas off of them. They're going to be your biggest resource, to be honest
Mhm.
with you,
Mhm.
because they're going to have really great, honest conversations with you. They'll give you their perspective, and they probably have a few, because if they are really successful, they've definitely hit some bumps in the road, and they definitely experienced some platforms and systems that just weren't for their particular business. So
Mhm.
what I always tell agents is the first thing you want to do is find a mentor slash coach. If that means you do have to end up paying for a coach because you know nobody in the business, like that's okay. And you can start at a baseline that's comfortable for you. But a coach is everything. If you talk with some of the best agents around, they all had coaches, or they all
Mhm.
felt like they really elevated their business when they found a coach that they could bounce ideas off of, that they could walk through their ideas with. So that's
Mhm.
probably the biggest thing that I would do if you're an aspiring agent and you really want to grow a great business and you want to learn from people who've already been there and done that.
Mhm. Love it.
And Trey, I know you've seen growth across multiple states and large portfolios. What's the difference between growth that's truly sustainable and the growth that just kind of looks good on paper?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm on two ends of it, right? So with Arrow, our growth is we're growing assets, right? And we're growing an investor base. So growth there looks a little bit different because we have to have investors who are ready and willing to put forth the funds in order to
Mhm.
grow our assets, right? And so that's on one end of things. And of course, we're looking, like you said, we're trying to be intentional with our growth. And so our goal there is how high is our IRR for our investors, right? What are our current numbers that we're providing as far as money that's going back to our investors on these assets? And then what does that like 10-year pro forma look like for us as a whole? And so we're really intentional with Arrow on how we grow it and what it looks like to our investors and what investors we bring in to help grow it, right? Because we're lucky we could be very picky about who we want on board, but we definitely do not necessarily want to bring the wrong investor in who's going to tell us everything that they know, but everything that we need to do in order to, properly and appropriately acquire the asset, manage the asset, so on and so forth. Now, on
Mhm.
the other side, with Epic Realty, growth is different when you're talking not about assets, but you're talking about agents, right? And we've seen it across the entire industry. You can grow and you can be, really big, and that is wonderful. But two questions that come with your growth is: are the agents you're bringing on actually transacting? Number one, right? And number two, what's your burn rate, right? How many
Mm.
agents come on? How quickly do they onboard? How quickly do they offboard? And so I think there's an intentional piece there as well, and like in trying to find a fit rather than just numbers. What I've loved about working with the C-suite at Epic is that they're really have positioned themselves to not be like true recruiters or attractors.
Mm.
They want
Hmm.
to be a brokerage where they say, this is us. And it doesn't matter if we grow by one more agent in the next 10
Mhm.
years, as long as we can provide our current agents all the benefits, tools, and resources that we feel like are valuable to them, then great. So that's
Mhm.
been a really unique dynamic because the C suite is not super focused on growing, but interestingly enough, all of the agents are very interested in
Hmm.
growing, right? So we see this push and pull because we see agents who just want growth for growth's sake. And then we
Mhm.
see the C-suite make decisions that would really go against just growth for growth's sake. So I
Mhm.
think it's a fine balance when you get to the brokerage level, what growth looks like. You just have
Hmm.
to be really intentional, I feel like, with who you want to be a part of your brokerage and how you position yourself.
There have been years in real estate where things seem easier, or it seems like easier to get a client, easier to make a earn a commission. But if things are tougher, right? It's like, what are you doing with intentionality to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success?
Absolutely. And I think, the market changes with, higher rates and lack of inventory and, just overall what the market shift that has happened in the last 18 months to 24 months. It truly has, caught many agents by surprise because if you think about it, the average age or average experience level of an agent in NAR is 8 years. Well, we had almost 11 years of consecutive run up. So you've got a lot of agents out there that are lacking kind of fundamental skill set. And I would say that that is, how do I price properties in a changing market, for example? They've never had to actually gain a high level of skill in pricing properties in perhaps a declining market, right? That's a different set than what they've seen in the last 10 years. In addition, negotiating skills, huge fundamental. And I think many agents, believe I'm a negotiator. But I also think that market climate in the last 10 years has really kind of precipitated being a messenger. Like, well, this is the only house on the market. And so sellers pick their price and highest bidder is going to win, right? That's not actually negotiating. And so I think that when a market declines, you really have to negotiate with the seller to help them understand how to price competitively in a changing market. You sometimes have to negotiate with the other side, managing expectations from, the other agent on the other side. You also have to manage expectations with the buyers. So there's, so many pieces of negotiation that are coming into play that maybe got minimized a little bit during, the 10 years of consecutive run up. So I think some of those foundational skills for agents, they need to make sure that they're really paying attention to those and that they're gaining an edge there.
Brandon, are you seeing the same things with your agents as far as, they have an eye on where the generational wealth is shifting and having these conversations with them now?
Yeah, she's spot on, and this is the time of the year, like she was talking about, is planning going into the next year, and not taking the time off. You mentioned that you took you about 90 days to recover when you took a December off once, and that's truly like our sales cycle, right? What we do today, we get paid 30, 60, 90 days down the road. And so, yeah, we're pushing our agents same way is right now is the time to build your listing inventory. If you want to start next year off strong, you've got to have sales in the pipeline.
I think that's so well said, Brandon. I think one thing too is that we sort of assume that maybe our sphere of influence actually understands the market conditions as we see them. They actually don't. And so focusing on seller education, given all of the changes, is a huge advantage right now because they can actually lead sellers to understand what are the benefits of entering the market right now with interest rates potentially easing, more inventories coming on the market in a lot of areas across the country. And so, how do you time that appropriately? What is the benefit to a seller? Because lots of sellers have held off on making their own moves, waiting for rates and waiting for inventory for them to move to. And so, I think I can't stress enough seller education. There is a reason for you to call your sphere and educate them on what's going on in the market today.
Yeah, and I believe that agents drive the market. And if we're not making those conversations and creating the deals, so to speak, it doesn't move and we get a little bit stagnant. And for example, like we've had some pretty experienced agents that have sold good amount of real estate over the past few years through their sphere, and all of a sudden their phone stops. And it's because the consumer or their clients or past clients don't realize that now is really a time to buy. They're hearing the news and being educated elsewhere. So it's important that our agents are reaching out and creating the market today.
Completely. Absolutely. You build your own pipeline. And one thing that I know
Hmm.
for sure, no matter what happens in the market, people are going to buy and sell homes towards the end of this year and going into next year. So you've got to be the one that they see as the person who's going to help them through it.
Yep, life happens.
Yeah.
Life happens. I think that brings me to one more thing, Tiffany. And that is, you know, we just did a study on the future of real estate, and 1 in 4 millennials, they found their agent on Facebook. Does that surprise anybody? That's kind of surprising to me. I really think that that is kind of an emerging trend.
Hmm.
And what that says to me is that, what is your digital resume? What
Mm,
is your social media presence? How
mhm.
are you marketing not only yourself, but
Right.
your success on social and on other, other platforms, your website, et cetera? And are you really intentionally building your, social media presence, but also your digital resume? Because what's happening is literally they are stalking you online before they ever reach out to you. So you have to make sure that, your digital resume and your social media presence is one of being a professional and
Mhm.
one of being, localized market knowledge and expertise.
Mhm.
So lots of, support and help out there.
Right. That's
We
fascinating.
offer, yeah, I mean, it's really, again, these emerging trends with the millennials and the next generation, are really key, because we do have a gap between the average age of an agent, versus the wave of home buyers that's in the market.
So that means that if you are not engaged in social media or keeping up on it or showing, like that you're available and you're busy working and that you're busy working, I think they want to know that whoever they're going to hire is going to work for them, right? For them and with
Sure.
them. It's actually interesting because Brandon and I I think we heard another statistic recently. I don't even know if it was a statistic or if it was a comment on once you reach out to a buyer's agent, like I don't know what study it is, so I'm not don't quote me, but it was something along the lines of like a client or potential client does not want to reach out to like 10 different buyers agents. So if they call you and you're able to engage, you're able to have some sort of answers for them on the spot, you're able to be prepared and be knowledgeable, like that potential client is most likely going to turn into a client. They don't want to really have to shop around. Does that surprise you or does that make sense to you?
I think that's spot on. I mean, first of all, speed is the name of the game when it comes to responding to lead inquiries.
Hmm.
Yet, 52% of online leads go unanswered by
Hmm.
agents. So, can you imagine owning a business and you only actually answer the phone 50% of the time? It's
Mhm.
kind of a crazy industry statistic. Yet, 83% of buyers worked with the agent who actually got in touch with them the
Hmm.
soonest. I mean, absolutely an amazing statistic. And
Right.
so, we have to understand it. Here's another way that, like we mentioned earlier, AI can help.
Right.
Lead incubation services can help with that. So there's lots of ways that you don't have to be connected to your phone 24/7,
Mm,
but you have
that's
to make sure that you have a
yes.
system of support. Yep.
Exactly, and, I mean,
Yeah.
I know for myself, if I'm calling, if I see if I need a service done and I look at 10
Mhm.
different numbers and I'm calling them all and nobody's answering, the one person that answers and I think we live in a time now that we do expect, like, immediate response, or we do expect that immediate engagement, and if we miss it, like, I don't even remember the person I called first because they didn't answer. And so
Sure.
I've already moved on, and this is for, like, the smallest of services, right? And so I
Right.
think that's so important, and again, we're not saying as a real estate agent, as a realtor, don't have another life, like, don't be at your kid's soccer
Right.
game, don't but have some sort of system in place so that if your phone does ring, that you're prepared, or with AI, that someone or
Yep.
something is prepared to at least be immediately responsive and get the ball rolling so you don't miss out on an opportunity.
Yeah, and I think another thing in the future of real estate study that we did, 36% of millennials said that the agent, is an important, piece of their home buying journey. But I mean, some people might go, oh no, they don't value agents.
Right.
Not true. The other component that they valued was agent in combination of AI.
Hmm.
So that popped it up to like 68% when you combine those two. And so they are using all of these tools to inform themselves about the home buying process. But they also recognize that grassroots local knowledge is incredibly important.